Hey, everybody. I am Lisa Campion, and I'm here with my beautiful and fantastic co facilitator and bestie, Jane Bear. And this is the Quantum Mystic Podcast. Today, we're diving into something that sort of gets talked about a lot in our spiritual and New Agey cycles. But I don't know if it gets explained the way that maybe it could. So, we're going to kind of go deeper into this. What is the quantum shift? What is this idea that we're shifting our state of consciousness? And specifically, what does it mean what do people mean when they say 3D consciousness, 4D, 5D consciousness? What does that mean? And more importantly, what does it actually look like in your actual life, right? Because here's the thing, they're not a place or a different dimension that you go to. We don't sort of graduate out of 3D and float away into some different part of the cosmos. Although some days I wish that were true. But these are states of consciousness that we're talking about, and how are these states of consciousness relate to our current, what we're experiencing, how we're experiencing life in the current moment. So we really move between these states of consciousness very fluidly, and you know that's what we want to talk about, just kind of what this all means, how the 3D world is the world of form, the world of survival, the body, the bills, the rules that you have, where the ego runs the show. And we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. We need this to be part of this dimension. Fourth dimension is that bridge where our intuition is, our emotions, our sort of psychic world, and our energetic life live. And the 5D unity consciousness, unconditional love, like the quantum self, like the connection to the multidimensional reality. And really, most of us aren't just parked in one dimension. We're floating through these as we need, and sometimes really unconsciously, sometimes with more consciousness. So we're going to break this down and talk about this in real practical terms, just to not as like kind of a spiritual hierarchy, like, oh, you're better than somebody else if you've made it into the fifth dimension, right? But we just want to get clear on what's going on, or at least talk about it, and see how it relates to our life, right? So let's get to it.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Yes, I know it's an interesting topic. It's one I often just kind of not avoid, but I think it's gotten so abstract and people get very attached to it that I'm like, just throw it out. There are times where I'm like, let's just not talk. Like, it doesn't even matter. But it is good to have some context. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation. And if you're listening to us live, say hello. You can get into the chat and just say if you're in this crazy snowstorm that I know Lisa's in, or where you are listening, and what your experience with this topic is about the quantum shift, 3D, 4D, 5D, your understanding, or maybe even questions, because we love to have you guys join in. And yeah, like I said, I feel like the 3D, 4D, 5D, it can feel really abstract and sort of mystical and untouchable, like very ungrounded. But I feel like if it doesn't change how you speak to your partner, or how you handle a trigger, or how you make a decision like on a regular Tuesday afternoon, then it's just spiritual vocabulary. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The quantum shift is really not a location. It's a way of relating to your own experience. And that's, I'm going to always bring it back to like the embodiment of everything, because otherwise, what's the point? Because we are human and we're meant to be doing this here. And I feel like, the quantum shift is when you really stop living as a reaction to life and you start living as more like a conscious participant in it, moving away from like, this is happening to me, to moving into like, this is happening through my field of consciousness. Now what am I going to do with it? And one thing that's really, really key is we can't do this without a regulated nervous system. We can't access higher states of consciousness without that nervous system being in a state of regulation, which doesn't mean calm, just means regulated. It means that we can move through emotions in an embodied way. And real quick, hi, Jody. Nice to have you here. Yeah, so I know that, Lisa, you talk about 3D, 4D, 5D probably more than I do.
Yeah.
But, like you said, I feel like 3D consciousness is really about like identity and survival, right and wrong, me versus you, scarcity and control. Like it's very here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that the fear is sort of running the system more than not. It's like the nervous system is in a state of bracing or reaction, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Not always, though. I mean, I think that we can be in that 3D state of consciousness and have it and have it be really useful when we're regulated, right?
Yeah.
So, like that is like, and maybe that's my training as a martial artist. I think, sort of the ultimate, and I actually happen to like love this model and use it all the time in my
I
teachings
know.
because I love a model. Like I like, and I try not to get too attached to my models, and I hold multiple models of, but I do
Yeah.
like them because I just feel like it kind of gives us a structure to begin the conversation or to explain the experiences. And I like it because it explains my experiences. So I understand it for myself. But I think there is a way, like with each dimension, which dimension, if we want to call it that there's a shadow and light aspect to it,
Yeah.
and that the shadow aspect of the 3D is what you said, like on jacked up nervous system, totally freaked out, living in fear, living in polarity, like just turn on the news right now and you'll see an example of the shadow of the
Yeah.
3D. But
Power
there's also, I think, a
struggle,
light, power struggle, like violence, like
needing to be
crazy
right. Yeah.
insanity, and yet there's like the light side of it is more like what I think of as the martial arts, like to be grounded, powerful in the moment, able to handle what the 35 inches of snow or the bear that's coming down the road at you or whatever it is. Like that can be just like, okay, I'm going to deal with this. And if we didn't have that, like we'd all be dead. We all would have died in the caveman days. So I think there can be a light side. I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Our egoic self is functional and needed. We drop it when we leave the planet, but until we do, we kind of need that thing.
Well, and do you feel like the 4D consciousness is the awareness of the patterns? It's like that's where you begin to awaken to your triggers and your shadow and your conditioning and the emotional loops. So you're still feeling fear. You're just not getting as triggered by it. You can like more be in the observer.
I think that it also has a shadow and light side, like the shadow of the 4D world, the spiritual, quote, air quotes, spiritual world is like spiritual bypassing and the love and lighters and the like, there's nothing, there's only like, there's nothing to see here. It's all love. Like that's, or living in sort of, fantasy really about what is going on. Spiritual fantasy, that thinks is the shadow side, and the light side is what you said, like a self observation, self insight, like looking, arising out of the, lower chakras, lower three chakras, and living it more in the upper chakras, where we can really sort of, when they say do the work, I think that happens in the 4D world for the most part.
Yeah, that's like where shadow work lives.
Yeah.
It's where like probably therapy is and where,
yes,
I think spiritual seekers are hanging out.
Yeah, all the healing modalities really are in that.
Yeah.
Reiki and all the healing modalities are mostly in that world. And it has a a shadow side too, which we talk a lot about in this podcast. Like what is that?
Yeah.
The bypass, right?
Right. And you can get really stuck there analyzing forever.
Mhm.
Like constantly analyzing where a trigger comes from or what's happening or why, or, that can be its own, um, it can be its own trap, I think,
You get stuck in the story, right, of your past lives, or you get stuck in the story of, like, whatever your wounding is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think we can and then sort of loop that into our identity in a pretty strong way.
Yeah.
Something we see a lot in the spiritual communities, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because like, oh, the awareness is one thing, but if you're not embodying what you're learning, it sort of becomes just like this loop or this rumination, right?
Yeah.
Just a shout out if if you're listening live, say hi. Hello from upstate Pennsylvania, Nance. Is that Nancy? Hi. Hi, everybody. It is an interesting conversation. And it's funny because even though you and I have talked about this, I don't know, so many times. We've talked about this in our, in the mystery school, and it still is sort of just like, I mean, they're still concepts, right? It's
Mhm.
still, like you said, it's a framework, and I think that
Yeah.
that can be really helpful. But you know, we still have these puny human minds that are just sort of, I think, trying to understand the of being human, I think, and so this can help. And let us know what you think about all of this and if the framework helps you guys. Because then, like you were saying, like the love and lighters, which we don't do, is often like can be it's people think the 5D consciousness is all about, suddenly you're somewhere else, like you're living, I don't know, in a different dimension, um, floating around in bliss. But um, I think it's mostly regulated. It's like a regulated embodied awareness.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like the ability to really feel fear without being ruled by it, and to feel anger without collapsing into it. And I think that truly is what regulated nervous system means.
Mhm.
Like you can stay open while still like setting clear boundaries, and remain sovereign and in your own personal power with it inside a conflict. So I feel like the coherence between your nervous system, and your thoughts and your words and your actions are all in alignment. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like 5D
That's
consciousness really is.
a great explanation. Hey, Joe from Massachusetts. Dude, how much snow did you get? I wanna know. Um, and yeah, I think it's just all what we can think about here in New England right now at the moment, but, um, I love that definition, and I agree. It's sort of like the physical body, the emotional body, mental body, spiritual body. When there's coherence between all those aspects of ourselves, um, we Joe got 12 inches. Well, I can just say 35 over here in Rhode Island. It's a matter of New England pride, okay? Like,
You win. You win.
I win because it's 35.
It's insane.
Um,
Ah,
yeah, so I think that kind of like one of my spiritual teachers explained it to me. It's sort of like the constant now. Like it's like now, this moment, now, 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 now. Like you know, um, that's it.
yeah.
Um,
Being able to be present in every moment, whether it's in
yeah,
discomfort or, you know, uh, choosing to respond instead of react. Like you're not escaping pain, you're just present with it, and you can metabolize it and you can alchemize it. I think that's really what 5D is all about.
right. And that I mean, I think the trap we have to get into is not where our ego and our egoic self sort of grabs onto this language around unity consciousness, or it's really a felt experience, and for me it's more like a flow state. Like when I know I'm in it when I'm not thinking about it. I'm just in the flow state. I'm in, the moment of I experience it the most when I'm dancing because I belong to this dance group. And when we're in the middle of the flow of that, I'm not thinking about, oh, this is me dancing now, or this, look at this experience I'm having. I'm just in that flow state. And for me, the that 5D consciousness is like a flow state. And I know if I'm thinking about it, I'm not there, you
Mm.
know? And I think our egoic self can sort of catch on to any of these things, whether it's the 4D psychic worlds or the 5D like sort of buzzwords about, you know, joy, unity consciousness, all these things. We can sort of latch onto those things and like, I'm doing joy really good right now. I was like, that's not really I don't know. For me, that's not it. It's more in the fluid flow of that where you're actually not thinking about yourself. I'm actually not, I'm just in the flow of that. I mean, I think we've all had those flow experience moments. And to me, that's time sort of like you lose track of your sense of self, your selfness, you lose track of the flow of time. That's the embodied experience for me anyway.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like the ability to feel everything in through my body, whether it's like, you know, somebody comes in and cri criticizes me or something happens, right? Something is said, and I can
Mm,
feel where that is felt in my body, but I'm still I can breathe, and I don't need to defend
mm,
myself. I don't need like, my body isn't in a reactive state, and
mm,
I either can respond or I wouldn't say, metabolize, maybe metabolize them or
yeah.
alchemize it in through my body, and like keep my sense of, I think that's where people talk about wanting to be in a constant state of peace. It's like
Mm,
what it really is something comes in and moves out so quickly that it's like a blip, and the peace is in like the awareness, the state of consciousness of not being in fear that there's like this big emotion coming in. We don't become attached to it. But the shift is like really internal. And I feel like that's like the
mhm.
lived experience of the 5D for me.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Yeah, it goes back to what you said about total nervous system regulation. And
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it's just our capacity to notice our triggers and work through them in the moment is really the key, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the ultimate not bypassing. It's the ultimate
Right.
um not pretending that everything is perfect. It's I feel like it's really
Mm,
the opposite. Because as we know and as we teach, like pain, information from our body, information from anything that's happening in our life is ultimately for our greatest and highest good and healing. It's always an opportunity. So, you know, we can't access higher states of consciousness without going through our lower like fragmentation, you know?
mhm,
And so in order to move, we need to move through it in and through the body. Um, and we're not suppressing it. We're not like over dramatizing it. We're not building an identity around it. We're just feeling it. And um, so I don't know. I've I yeah, and when you're in a state of joy of dance, like your system is totally regulated and you're moving things through, right? Joe says, I don't think that everything is love and light, but as often as I can remember and return to that, then that is all that I try to put out into my field. Yeah. As long as you're feeling what's coming up, right? Because we sort of jokingly say the love and lighters, right? Um, because it sort of became a movement. It's like people who were just putting on the identity of being in love and light, of being in a state, but underneath it there was like this like anger and turmoil and, you know, rage and snapping at your dog and your kid and the person who cut in front of you. And so again, it's about, you know, how's your nervous system? Because love and light's an actual state.
Yeah. And when you're there and for real, that's amazing. And of course we have moments. We have moments when we're there. Until
Totally.
we get triggered. Until we get triggered and something happens and you know, you lose it. And in that moment, if you can recognize that you're not in that state, and get curious. For me, curiosity is the real um tool that I use to kind of not get trapped in it. Like if I'm because I think it's so easy to go down the role of judgment, you know, like, oh, I'm triggered and we get all judgy about ourselves. And I think to me, curiosity keeps me self-reflecting, but not in a state of judgment. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, what just happened there? Why did I get triggered? Oh my goodness, can you look at that? Well, isn't that interesting? You know, there that thing is again, that it always comes back to the same few like instances of my life. Oh, it's that thing again. There you are again, old friend. Is kind
Yeah.
of the, you know, my experience of like, oh yeah, that. And then I can decide. It's almost like I think there's sort of a spaciousness that happens for me where I'm the moment before I get triggered, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get triggered, or I could, you know, I feel like a gap of space. And to me, that space is like the fifth dimension is because the fifth dimension is sort of the space between the spaces, right?
Mm.
And in that spaciousness, I can make a different choice. I can choose something different. I can choose, you know, to not, you know, act out on that. I can choose to like, and what's the research? I just was reading this research that says like our actual emotions last like something like 90
90
seconds.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, 90
90
seconds.
physiological like explosion of like of energy.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it, right?
Yeah.
And if you let it flow through you, I think if you stuff it down inside your body or you stuff it down, it can really like hang around forever, you know.
That's what
And
a
if you
block
let
is.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of process and that kind of, you know, um, go stand in a corner somewhere and breathe and, you know, for that 90 seconds to wait for that 90 seconds to be up and think about and introspect a little bit. And to me, that space where
Yeah.
I'm not, where nothing is happening is it's more of the space in the 5D.
Well, and I feel like little
Yeah.
kids are the perfect example of that because, you know, like a little, I have two daughters. And so, you know, I think of when they were little and something would happen and there would just be like a big burst of screaming and feelings and I would just watch it and like tears and all this stuff and if I had known back then, I probably would have timed it. I'd be like, "Oh, about a minute, minute and a half, maybe 3." And then they'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go outside and play." Like, it was just done, you know, because I wasn't telling him to stop it. I wasn't trying to calm them down. There wasn't any like, I was just so fascinated. And then and then they move on. And all kids do this because they, you know, if they're not conditioned away from it, they just feel the emotion, they let the energy move through their body, and then they move on. And that's like the brilliance of the design of human bodies. And I think we're all looking to get back to that. Um, and you know, sort of realizing that this what we talk about, which is consciousness and expanding consciousness, but also raising consciousness in this case, it's not something that you like visit in meditation. It's something that you take off the mat, you take off the cushion, and you practice in conversation and in parenting and in conflict and in business and in disappointment. And you know, it's like it's in always, it's in everything. But I love like just turn to little kids.
That's
And
cool.
ducks. Have you ever seen ducks get into a fight?
No.
They get really like, they peck at each other, their wings are flying, they're just like at each other, and then they're done and they shake it off, and then they're like totally fine and they paddle away nice and gently. But they do a shake.
They do a shake. Almost all animals do the shake,
Yeah.
and that's why the shake works for us too. Like I always say, like crying, laughing, and shaking, those are the ways that we discharge that
Yeah.
energy out of our body, out of our nervous system.
Then we
I
can
love
move
what
on.
Joe said. Joe said it's easy to be there when I'm alone. I feel that, Joe. Like I feel that too. And I'm pretty sure there's other people on the planet just to give us that friction. So we have plenty of opportunities to practice.
It is. That's the
Practice.
beauty, right? That's the beauty of
Yeah.
8 billion, although I hear now there's more. Um, people is like we're meant to be in relationships so that we can see ourselves and have mirrors everywhere we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee from Palmer says they prefer the nervous system resonance over nervous system regulation because somehow regulation feels like externally being told how to keep it all together. That's an interesting thought. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess regulation can be a triggering word for people. And if resonance works for you, then I say go for it. It's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah. And that is why I like quickly mentioned, regulation isn't about being calm all the time. Like that's just a misnomer. It's something that I think maybe was over talked about in different spiritual circles of like a regulated nervous system is that we're always in calm and peace and like state, and it's just not that. It's about actually being able to regulate your nervous system. So when something comes in, that burst of energy comes in and you feel rage, you feel the rage. You allow the rage to move through your body. You maybe go like we said, shake or put on some rage music and dance it out, and then it's done. And you're not suppressing it or grief or anger or, what are all the other emotions that we feel? A million of them. We don't push them down because that's where our nervous system becomes dysregulated and in a constant state of like freeze because we're in survival mode or fight or all the things. So yes, I agree with you. And I think it's about clarifying what that actually means.
Hey, let's talk about Sedona.
Let's do it.
We're if you want to hang out with us in person, which of course who wouldn't want to hang out with us in person because it's so much fun to be with us. We're leading a trip this June to Sedona, a very magical place to be. We got a few spots left, and you can go to either of our websites to check out the more information on it. And we just have a really good time. We do some Jeep tours. We do a UFO tour. We're doing a drumming circle with some really cool friends of ours. We do healing circles. So like quantum healing and readings. Everybody gets one while we're there. And I think this is the third time third time.
Third annual Sedona retreat, and people keep
Yeah.
coming back. And I think that says a lot. It's become such an incredible group. And it does shift, of course. It's just always this great container of the place, of course, Sedona, but also the place where we stay is really kind of magical, even though it's like right downtown, you can walk everywhere. And it's like, we have a theme every year, and this year it's about well, essentially like self-love and self understanding. And thank you, Jody, for all those wondering about Sedona. I highly recommend it. She's been twice and it was life-changing. Thank you, Jody. But yeah, Sedona is so incredible, right?
I think it just being there, so much happens. Like I always say, like we put together a really great retreat, but Sedona does it because it's just incredible to be there and to be there with a really really beautiful group of people, and it's a great place to make some friends because we just collect this really great pod of people to hang around with. So I hope you join us.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
if you
feel
like if what we're talking about, then think about the mystery school. We're going to be starting another cohort coming up in June. You can find it at the quantum-mystic.com. And we run this program for 8 months. It's the real spiritual stuff. So if you're tired of lightweight spiritual programs, we have like the real deal based on spiritual practice, and we meet every week for 8 months. And Jody's also been a part of that. So it's incredible to see the growth that our students go through. I feel quite humbled by it, but
Same.
we hope to see you there too.
Yeah, it's real. It like Lisa said, it's really about doing the deep work, and we create this container and modules and teachings that lead you through it, so that you're not doing it alone. But if you feel like you've been dabbling and, or seeking, or haven't found the right fit, like I do know that just from watching the students go through it, I'm like, oh wow, this works. This is
Yes.
pretty deep and pretty awesome, and yes, very humbling. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Check out all the things.
It's been great talking. Thanks for all of your beautiful comments, and thanks for being here today while we talk about this conversation, and we're going to see you next time.